They told you death is the end, the final stop. But what if it's just the beginning? Death isn't a void to fear or a mystery to blindly accept. More than 1,000 years ago, a sacred manuscript, hidden from the world, laid out exactly what happens after we die. Not in riddles, not symbolically, but step by step. This manuscript, called the Tibetan Book of the Dead, was never meant for everyone. It was shared only with those who were ready to face the truth without turning away. Because what it reveals is intense. Says death isn't the end. It's the beginning of a test. And this test decides whether your soul breaks free from the endless loop of life and death, or gets pulled back into another body to start all over again. And here's the terrifying part. Most people fail. Not because they're bad, not because they're weak, but because they don't understand what's happening. They don't see the illusions. They don't realize that everything they experience after death, the sights, the sounds, the feelings, is just their own mind reflecting itself. And by the time they begin to wake up, it's already too late. If this manuscript is right, then the first few seconds after death are more important than your entire lifetime. It starts when the body finally gives out. No heartbeat, no breath, but your awareness still fully there. You feel yourself detach, almost like waking from a dream. But this time, you're not coming back. Then it hits a brilliant, blinding light. Overwhelming. Pure. Impossible to describe. And somehow, it feels like it knows you. This is what the Tibetan masters called the clear light of reality. And if you recognize it, if you surrender to it, you break free. Instantly. No more reincarnation. No more struggle. Full liberation. But almost no one does. Why? Because fear kicks in. We cling to what we know. Our name, our memories, the life we just left. Instead of merging with the light, we resist it. And that's when the illusions begin. At first, you hear voices, faint and familiar. Then shapes appear, patterns, faces that seem recognizable. But none of it is real. It's just the mind searching, scrambling to rebuild a reality it understands, trying to make meaning from the unknown. And this is where most souls lose their way. Instead of seeing death as freedom, they reach for comfort. And the mind responds, creating what they expect to see. People, places, religious figures, even gods they once worshipped, not knowing these are projections of their own beliefs. If they only realized what was happening, they could let go. But they don't. And so they're pulled deeper into the bardo, the mysterious realm between death and rebirth. The very first moments after death matter more than most people ever imagine. The Tibetan Book of the Dead says awareness is everything. If your mind is trained, if you're ready, you can pass through the illusions and break free. But if you're still holding on to who you were, if you're grasping for identity, for life, then what happens next is inevitable. You're about to begin a 49-day journey, one that leads either to full liberation or another round in the cycle of life, death, and forgetting. The bardo is beginning, the illusions are forming, and the space between lives has just opened. You are now in the bardo, a realm that's not life, but not your next life either. Time moves differently here. Seconds can stretch forever. Days can vanish in an instant. You have no body, no voice, only awareness. And here's the issue. Most people don't even realize they've died. They're still clinging to their name, their memories, their routine. They try to go home, to speak, to reach out, but no one hears them, no one sees them, and slowly, the truth begins to settle in. This isn't a dream, this is death. And still, the mind resists. It clings to the idea of self, searching for logic, comfort, something to hold on to. But the bardo doesn't give you that. It's not a place of peace. It's a place of confrontation, where your soul has to face itself, stripped of everything else. First, it might feel calm. There's no pain, no body, just awareness. You're floating in a vast, empty space, like drifting through an ocean where every thought ripples outward. And then, slowly, the visions begin. First, they're beautiful, warm, welcoming. Radiant figures appear, glowing with light, radiating peace. Some see them as angels, others as divine beings, but they're not coming from somewhere else. They are you, reflections of your own higher consciousness. And if you recognize them for what they are, you can merge with them, dissolve into pure awareness, escape the cycle completely. But most people don't. They pause, they doubt, they question what they're seeing. And in that moment of hesitation, everything shifts. The peaceful beings begin to change. Their faces distort. Their light begins to fade. And their voices, once calming, now echo with fear and uncertainty. What once felt like paradise starts to twist into something darker. This is the next phase of the bardo, the test of illusion. Before we continue, if this message is resonating with you, if it's opening something inside you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Not just for you, but because every click tells the algorithm to show this truth to more people who are still asleep. More people who need to hear it just like you did. Now, let's go even deeper. And the beings you see now, the monstrous forms, the terrifying shapes, they're not here to hurt you. They're not punishments. They're not real in the way we think of real. They are projections of your own mind, guilt you buried, regrets you never faced, pain you refused to process. The Tibetan Book of the Dead makes this clear. Everything in the bardo is a reflection of your consciousness. There is no external judge, only you, finally seeing what you tried to avoid in life. And here's where it becomes dangerous. The more fear you feel, the more real the illusions become. The bardo acts like a mirror, and most people can't handle what it shows them. This is the real test, and what happens next will shape everything. First, it might still look divine. Soft light, celestial landscapes, figures filled with compassion. But it's still part of the illusion. These radiant beings don't speak, but their presence is powerful. Some people who've had near-death experiences describe them as gods, angels, ascended masters, but they're not saviors. They're not judges. They are you, your highest potential, staring back at you. And if you can recognize that, you can move beyond all of it. But that's not easy, because if your mind is still clouded by fear, if you've spent your life chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, and denying death, then the illusion twists again. The radiant beings start to flicker. Their forms distort. Reality itself begins to unravel. And then, just like that, they're gone. And in their place come the wrathful visions. The Tibetan Book of the Dead doesn't hold back about what comes next. As the days pass in the bardo, the comforting light fades. The peaceful beings vanish. And in their place, something else appears. Something terrifying. Grotesque shapes, twisted faces, voices that roar, nothing like anything human. Some of these entities have too many eyes, too many arms, heads stacked on heads. They charge forward like hunters, like executioners, like nightmares made real. And this is where most souls break. They panic, they run, they scream, they beg for it to stop. But here's the hard truth. There's nowhere to go. Because these things, they're not coming for you from the outside. They are you, your guilt, your secrets, the pain you caused but never faced. Every lie, every selfish choice, every moment you thought no one saw, now takes form. It looks like a monster, but it's really your mind turned inside out. And here's what most people never understand. The more you fight, the stronger it gets. The more fear you feel, the more real it becomes. Because fear feeds illusion, and illusion feeds on belief. There's only one way out, not by running, by seeing, by recognizing the truth. These monsters, they're shadows, echoes, reflections of you. And the moment you truly see that, when you stop feeding them fear, they vanish. Like mist in sunlight, gone. But almost no one makes it that far in time. They react to the fear, but never wake up to the lesson. This is the second test of the afterlife. The first was the clear light, a test of pure awareness. This one is the test of fear, the test of self-mastery. And those who fail fall deeper. They sink further into the bardo, wrapped tighter in karma, pulled faster into another life. For most, the terror lasts for weeks, but then something shifts. By the third or fourth week, a new stage begins. It's quieter, but far more intense. The Book of the Dead calls it the Great Mirror. And once you reach it, there's no hiding, no divine courtroom, no angels keeping score, no higher being deciding your fate. What happens now is entirely between you and yourself. First, it feels like silence. The chaos fades. The visions disappear. For a moment, you might think, maybe you've made it. But then it starts. You feel a pull backward, through time, through every moment, through every decision you've ever made. But this isn't remembering. This is reliving. You're not watching your life, you're back inside it. Every word, every action, every thought, and not just from your side. If you caused pain, you'll feel the pain you gave. If you brought joy, you'll feel that joy return. There's no distance, no filter, no excuses, no story to explain yourself. Only truth. This isn't punishment. This is the raw, unfiltered reality of who you were. You are not being judged by some divine force. You are facing yourself. And for many, it's unbearable. Because in life, we avoid responsibility. We hide behind busyness. We promise we'll deal with it later. But here, there is no later. There is no running, no defending, no bargaining, only feeling. And for some, those who lived with love, truth, compassion, this moment feels like peace, a flood of light. But for others, it's a collapse, not from punishment, but from the sheer weight of what they now see. This is the reckoning, and no soul escapes it. But what comes next is even more shocking, because this life review doesn't just shape how you feel about your past. It shapes where you go next. By the time it's over, your soul has changed. It's been molded by the emotions you just relived. And if you leave this review still gripping guilt, regret, or unfinished desires, you'll be pulled back into the cycle. Rebirth isn't random. The Tibetan masters taught that the soul is magnetized to its next life by the state of its mind. Some return into suffering, into chaos, into loss, not as punishment, but because their energy draws them there. And the wildest part? They don't even know they're choosing it. That's why the life review isn't just a reflection. It's a test. Can you let go? Can you face everything and not cling to it? Can you accept your past without being owned by it? Those who can let go, they move forward. They rise. They break free from the cycle. But the ones who can't, they're pulled back into a body, back into another life, back into the wheel. That's why ancient traditions, especially the oldest ones, all emphasize the same truth. You have to prepare for death long before it arrives. Because when the mirror comes, what it shows you is already written, by how you lived. And then, around the 4th or 5th week in the bardo, the final test begins. The illusions have faded. The life review is done. And now the soul, your soul, stands at the crossroads. This is it, the decision point, to break free or return again. And here's the part almost no one is told. There's no one out there judging you. There's no cosmic ruler handing out rewards or punishments. What you're facing is yourself, the parts you ignored, the truths you buried, the fears you never faced. And that realization, it flips everything upside down. Because once you see it, really see it, the real question becomes impossible to ignore. Are you living in a way that prepares you for death? And if the answer is no, then when the test begins, how could you possibly pass it? This is why these teachings were hidden, why they were never given to the masses. Because if people knew, if they stopped fearing death, if they stopped waiting for salvation from someone else, they would stop being controlled. No more blind obedience. No more trading their lives for false promises. No more fear of a punishment that was never real. Because the real punishment is ignorance. The real hell is dying unconscious. And that's what most people are doing. Living in the dark, dying in the dark, stuck in the cycle without ever knowing why. That's how institutions, governments, religions, systems built their power, on the lie that your fate belongs to someone else. But it doesn't. It never did. You're the one shaping what comes next. Not after death, right now. And here's the thing almost everyone misses. The bardo isn't just something that opens after your final breath. It's already here. You're in it. The same illusions that trap souls after death, they're already working on you in life. The fears, the chasing, the false identities. It's all the same game, just wearing a different mask. And unless you wake up now, unless you start preparing while you're still alive, you'll fall for it later, just like everyone else. But it doesn't have to be that way, because once you truly understand what the Tibetan masters were trying to show us, you realize the bardo isn't a place. It's a state of mind. And the lesson is simple. If you want to be conscious after death, you must be conscious now. That's where everything shifts. This isn't about belief. It's about clarity, about seeing things as they are. Not later, not someday, now. Because when the moment comes, when your last breath leaves your body, there won't be a map. There won't be another study guide. You'll meet the truth of your life exactly as you are. And the only question that will matter is, will you see the illusion or fall for it again? And that's not even the full picture. Because now, even science is starting to catch up to what these ancient masters already understood. People who've had near-death experiences, they're all saying similar things: the light, the life review, the overwhelming peace, or sometimes deep fear. And that feeling always lines up with how they lived their life. Even parts of modern physics, especially quantum theory, are beginning to ask, what if consciousness isn't just inside the brain? What if it continues after death, beyond time, beyond space? For centuries, these ideas were dismissed as spiritual myths, just old stories from monks and mystics. But now, that line between science and ancient truth is starting to blur. So why haven't more people heard this? Because the world is built to distract you, to keep your focus on surface-level things, chasing money, like status, approval, to keep you too busy to ever stop and ask what actually matters. We're trained to run after things that don't last. So when death finally arrives, we're completely unprepared. And that brings us to the biggest lie of all. That death is a mystery. It's not. The Tibetan masters mapped this all out over 1,000 years ago. They laid out every phase, the 49 days, the illusions, the tests. They explained how the mind doesn't just enter the afterlife, it creates it. And that awareness is the only key that unlocks freedom. But barely anyone is ready for it, because no one is taught to prepare. And here's the truth they never say out loud. If you're not conscious while you're alive, you won't be conscious when you die. And if you're not conscious when you die, the cycle just keeps going, over and over again. But if something in you is waking up, if you're ready to go deeper, then there's another path. And what comes next might be the most important realization so far. If all of this is true, then the real question isn't what happens after death. It's, are we already failing the test? Because if even part of the Tibetan Book of the Dead is accurate, then most of us are already stuck. Not because we're broken, not because we're lost causes, but because no one ever taught us how to prepare. Before we continue, if this message is resonating with you, if it's opening something inside you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Not just for you, but because every click tells the algorithm to show this truth to more people who are still asleep. More people who need to hear it just like you did. Now, let's go even deeper. Look around. How many people do you know who even think about death? Seriously? How many are doing anything to prepare? We act like death won't happen. We push it aside. We drown it out with noise, dopamine, deadlines, distractions, all while knowing that sooner or later our time will run out. And when that moment comes, we'll be just as lost as the billions before us. Blinded, confused, caught in the same cycle. Because the real test, it doesn't start after death. It's happening right now. The bardo isn't just some mystical space you enter after dying. It's a mental state, and a lot of us are already living inside it. Think about it. The fear that makes souls panic and run from dark visions in the bardo, it already controls our decisions right now. The attachments that pull souls back into reincarnation, they are the same attachments driving us to chase success, status, recognition. And the illusions that trap souls after death, they're no different from the ones keeping people asleep today, accepting everything they're told, never stopping to question what's real. So if you're not awake now, you won't suddenly wake up then. And that's why so few people escape. Because the Tibetan Book of the Dead makes it clear, the habits you carry, the fears you feed, the cravings that drive you, they don't stop when your body dies. They come with you. They shape your afterlife. If you live in ignorance, you'll die in it. If fear runs your life, it will rule your death. And if you're chasing illusions now, you'll be chasing them after you're gone. The cycle doesn't stop, and it's designed to keep you locked in unless you wake up. And the most heartbreaking part? We're the ones keeping ourselves stuck. But here's what most never realize. The cycle can be broken. That's why these teachings were written, protected, hidden, passed down in secret for centuries. Not for the masses, not for the distracted, but for the few who are truly ready to wake up. And the first step? You have to see things clearly. No sugarcoating, no denial. No, I'll figure it out later. Most people won't. They'll keep living on autopilot, telling themselves there's time, that death is distant, that they'll worry about it when it's closer. But then, in a blink, life ends, and they enter the bardo unaware, unprepared. still asleep, just like everyone else. But for the ones who wake up now, the ones who break the cycle while they're still alive, everything changes. Because the real preparation, it doesn't happen after death. It starts here. And no, this isn't about religion. It's not about dogma, or rituals, or what you wear, or who you pray to. It's about one thing, awareness. The ability to see what's false and stop being ruled by it. Because the question isn't, what happens after we die? The real question is, are we already dead and just haven't realized it yet? Most people, they'll move on, scroll away, fall right back into noise, into distraction, into sleep. But if you're still here, if something inside you is still listening, then this moment might be your beginning. And now the question becomes impossible to ignore. If the way we live determines what happens when we die, how do we prepare? How do we escape the cycle before it repeats again? The truth is simpler than you think. If death is the final exam, then life is the only time you get to study. But here's the problem. Most people don't even know they're being tested. They treat life like it goes on forever. They push death aside like it's a problem for some future version of themselves. And then one day that future shows up. The Tibetan masters understood something we've forgotten. You won't be conscious after death if you weren't conscious while you were alive. If your days are spent numbing discomfort, running from silence, avoiding the truth buried inside you, then when the moment comes, you'll be lost. You'll cling to the only things you know, your name, your fears, your identity, and that grasping, that resistance, that's what traps you. That's what sends you back into illusion. But there is another way, and it starts with detachment. Now don't get it twisted. Detachment isn't about cutting yourself off. It's not about walking away from life or rejecting people. It's about one thing, not being ruled by what you crave. Most people live as slaves to their wants. They chase wealth. They chase status, thinking it'll finally make them feel whole. But in the bardo, none of that matters. The only thing that does is the state of your mind, the awareness you carry with you. The tighter you grip the material world, the harder it becomes to let go when it matters most. And when you can't let go, you fall back into another life, another round of forgetting. Real detachment isn't about rejecting life. It's about mastering yourself. It's about directing your thoughts, not being dragged by them. It's realizing that nothing you see, not your body, your stuff, your story, will last. And once you really understand that, death stops being something to fear. Step 2, awareness. Yes, the bardo is full of illusion, but so is this life. Everything you believe, everything you think is true, is all filtered through fear, through memory, through conditioning. If you don't learn to see through those filters now, you won't stand a chance later. That's why practices like meditation, reflection, and silence, they're not luxuries. They're training, not for religion, for survival, for freedom. Think about it. Athletes don't train on game day. They prepare. They build strength. They build awareness so they're ready when it counts. It's the same with your mind, because when you die, your thoughts don't disappear. They become your entire experience. And if fear, confusion, and doubt ruled you in life, that's exactly what you'll face in death. But if you've trained for clarity, if you've let go of identity, if you've learned to be still, then when the illusions rise, you'll see them for what they are. You won't flinch. You won't cling. You'll be still. You'll be aware. And you'll be free. That's the difference between those who escape and those who don't. Step 3, acceptance. Death isn't an enemy. It's not a punishment. It's not the end. It's the moment everything is revealed. If you live your whole life fearing death, it will control you. But if you've made peace with it, when it arrives, you'll meet it calmly, with presence, without panic. The wise ones didn't prepare for death because they were afraid. They prepared because they understood life and death are inseparable. You can't master one without understanding the other. And that's exactly why the world distracts you. Because when people stop fearing death, they stop being easy to control. They stop believing in lies. They stop giving up their freedom. They stop following systems designed to keep them small. So if you feel something shifting, if a part of you is starting to wake up, you're already ahead of most. But there's still one truth you need to hear. Everything we've talked about, the illusions, the bardo, the way out, it means nothing unless you understand this. Most people will never prepare for death. They'll keep chasing things that don't matter. They'll keep avoiding the parts of themselves they don't want to face. And when the end comes, they'll fall into the bardo, just as they lived, unaware, unready, asleep. But here's what no one tells you. Death doesn't change you. It doesn't fix you. It doesn't give you wisdom. It doesn't make you spiritual. It just reveals you exactly as you are. The Tibetan Book of the Dead doesn't talk about heaven or hell like stories for children. It doesn't describe rewards or punishments, because the bardo, it isn't out there. It's in you. It's a mirror, and it reflects the mind you bring with you. If your life was ruled by fear, you'll see fear. If you lived clinging to what wasn't real, you'll die holding on to what's already gone. If you stayed unconscious, you'll drift through death the same way. But if you spent your life waking up, if you trained your mind to see clearly, to be still, to let go, then when that final moment comes, you'll know. You'll recognize it. You'll see the bardo for what it truly is. A test, a transition, an opening, and that is the secret they've been hiding for over 1,000 years. Because if people understood what death really is, if they knew the truth behind all of this, they'd stop wasting their lives. They'd stop bowing to fear. They'd stop believing they were powerless. Because when you truly understand death, you become unshakable. And once it clicks, once you really see that this life was never the destination, that it's only the preparation for what comes next, everything starts to shift. The way you think, the way you move, the way you live. You stop chasing highs that fade. You stop wasting energy on things that never really mattered. You stop fearing loss because you finally understand nothing was ever truly yours. And when the moment comes, when you take your last breath and step beyond the edge, there's no fear, no panic, no reaching for something to hold on to. Only stillness, only presence, only awareness. And in that moment, free from illusion, you'll be given a choice. A real one: return or break free. But most people will never make it to that point. They'll click away, scroll on, forget everything their soul just heard. And when their time comes, they'll be lost. But you don't have to be. If you're still here, still listening, then you're already different. You're already seeking. And that's exactly why we built this channel. Not for entertainment, but for truth seekers like you. A space where we can go deeper, where we speak what others won't, where we uncover the things most people spend lifetimes avoiding. So if this resonated, even for a moment, don't leave without subscribing. This is just the beginning, and what's coming next, you'll want to be here for it. Like the video to help more people find it. This video might not reach the masses, but if you share it, maybe it reaches someone who's ready, just like you were. And if you've made it this far, drop a comment below and simply write, I'm waking up because maybe, on some level, you always did. We'll see you in the next one.